Today's lesson is on estimating. This is one of the questions that we've been doing on Tuesdays that you've been struggling with. I set Tuesdays work a little bit differently, but what I realised is quite a lot of you aren't watching the video, so you're struggling on the questions, and there was a bit too much in the video to be able to help you with the questions. So what we're going to do instead on Tuesdays is we're just going to go through of one of the topics on Tuesday's work that you're struggling with, and we're just going to practice that topic. So the first one is the question that is about estimating. We've done rounding recently, and estimating needs you to understand rounding. The clips you did on rounding that will help you with this are 17, 56 and 130. If you'd like to go back and do any of them as revision, please do. 130 is probably the one that's newest here. That's about significant figures. 17 is about rounding to the nearest 10 and hundreds. And 56 is about rounding to 1 decimal place and 2 decimal places. When you are asked to estimate the answer, so we're looking at this question on the screen now. When you are asked to estimate the answer to a calculation, you must round the numbers. Estimating is a mathematical scientific word for guess. But we're not just randomly guessing. We're guessing through rounding. So the first number we would round to 1 significant figure, which means I'm going to round it to the nearest 100, because the first number in that number is 100, 200. So we're going to round it to the nearest 100. Look at the second number. We're also going to round that to 1 significant figure. That means looking at the first digit, we're going to round to that, that's 100. So we're going to round to the nearest 100. On the bottom line, we're going to round to the 1 significant figure. When you're estimating, you're always rounding to 1 significant figure. The first significant figure is tens, so we're going to round it to the nearest 10. On the final number, the first significant figure is tens, so we're going to round it to the nearest 10. Now look at that calculation. You can do that, and that's the whole point of estimating. You can do it in your head. You can do it without writing anything down, but you have to work out what numbers you're going to use first. So the numerator becomes 600, because 300 add 300 is 600, and the denominator becomes 10. And remember, this is a fraction, but it's also a divide. What's 600 divided by 10? 60. So we must round each number to 1 significant figure first, then we can do the calculation. Here's a question for you to try. Pause the video and have a go now. Okay, so I'm going to take each number and I'm going to round it to 1 significant figure. So the first number would become 1,000 because I'm rounding it to the nearest 1,000. The next number would become 400 because I'm rounding it to the nearest 100. And the number on the denominator would become 40 because I'm rounding it to the nearest 10. That's a calculation I can do in my head. The numerator becomes 1400, the denominator becomes 40, and now you just need to think about how you can do that division. I write it as a fraction because you can think of it as a fraction. And if I was simplifying that fraction, I would divide them both by 10, which leaves me with 140 divided by 4. There's 2 ways I can do that. I can do it using long multiplication by that, like that. Or when you divide by 4, you can half it, then half it again. Either one of those methods is fine. If I half it and then half it again, I still get to the same answer. So the answer to this question should have been 35. This is grade 4 because there's a few things you have to think about. You have to remember to round everything to 1 significant figure, and you also have to remember to try and work the calculation out in the end, and they'll look quite different. And then we get on to more complicated versions, but what you do is exactly the same. We take each number. Now this top numerator is in a bracket, so we must keep it in a bracket. The first number we're going to round to the nearest 10 because the first significant figure is a 10. The second number we're going to round to the nearest whole number because the first number is just a 1, a unit, so we're going to round to that. And we're still going to square it, because that's what it says to do. On the denominator, the first number we're going to round to the nearest 1, which is 6. The second number we're going to round to the nearest 1 as well, which is 5. Now, I need to think a little bit about BIDMAS, and this is where I'm saying you need to think about the calculation. They'll often look quite different. The top line gives me 11 squared when I add the bracket, and the bottom line gives me 11. I know 11 squared is 121, and if I want to divide that by 11, 121 divided by 11 is 11. So the answer to that question is 11. Here's a question for you to try. Pause the video and try this question now. The first number needs to be rounded to the nearest 100 because the first significant figure is 100. And on the denominator, the first number needs to be rounded to the nearest 1. And so does the second number. Now we can do this sum. It is 200 divided by 2. And we can do that one quite easily, 100. And 100 is your estimate for that calculation. Here are 5 questions that I would like you to try. Please send me a photo of your working the rounded numbers and your calculations. Then you need to go on to do Hegarty Maths, clip 131, all on the same thing. So 5 questions, send me a photo of those 5 questions, then do Hegarty Maths, clip 131. Thank you.